How is everybody doing today? Or in the morning, however you want to look at it. I put the kids to bed, got some homework done, still up, and I wanted to get this out before I go to bed. But can I motivate you to whoever come back and watch this? Can I relate the Bible to real life? How these things happen? People try to say the Bible, they get thumped by the Bible. I don't think. I think sometimes you need that reset button, and sometimes you don't realize how close it is to real life. And I'm going to use my experience to relate these things to real life. And if you learn these things early, this is me. I try to give from my insight to anybody that wants to listen, especially young people. If you can avoid these things early, you can avoid a lot of headaches. You can avoid a lot of pain. You can avoid a lot of scarring or self exposure that you could put yourself through that you don't have to go through. So, with that being said, before I start, give me a little music on this. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Mike Flair channel on YouTube. We also make the Thinking Game podcast, C Team Sports, a lot of different things. I'm not a niche person. I don't do just one thing. I'm a human being. I'm all over the place. When you're a husband, you're a father, and then you work full time, you go to school full time. You're really not a niche person. You're all over. You're doing many of things. You're like a utility knife. So many things to be used and done. So this is what I feel like making at this moment in time right now. Mike motivation, and I hope that it can motivate you. So first thing, prodigal son. I'm going to relate this to real life. So just follow me, roll with me. Let me know in the comments if you like it. Hit the like button if you like it. Facebook, YouTube. Probably make clips out of it if I get a chance. Let me know what you think about this. So starting, I think it's Luke chapter 15, verse 11. NIV version, a little bit easier to read. It said there was a man who had two sons. And this is in red. Jesus spoke this. The younger one said to his father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. That's like me telling my parents, um, whatever inheritance I got or whatever trust fund, just go ahead and give me the money. Let's go ahead and cash out right now so I can go do what I want to do. Go ahead and cash me out. Pretty much what they're saying. And a lot of us do that. I didn't have an inheritance. I was working, but when I got grown, I felt like I was grown. I felt like I'm ready to do my own thing. Most time kids go through that. You so ready to be grown and you just ready to cash out and do your own thing. Now, this is what relate to real life, even though it's just a verse, but it covers so much stuff in life. It says not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. The verse it covers so much in life when you're young. That between that 18, 17, 18 to about 25 range, most inner city kids, let's say about 70%, probably. It could be more than that, but where I grew up in the Southwest, there were a number of kids that went through this. You get together all you had, you can't wait to get out of the situation that you're in, and you want to go off and live on your own. Sometimes it may not even be distant. It may seem distant. You may be from Southwest. You want to go live in Sherwood. You want to go live on the other side of town, wherever you decide. You want to go to college, go to Conway, go to Fayetteville. You go off to a distant country. This is what I will say to anybody. You have to understand that when you leave under the covering of your parents or parent, however you grew up, you go out into a far country or just leave out of the house of your uh, parental guidance. You are on your own at this point. You got to understand accountability. You got to understand exposure, whether incidental or accidental. You got to understand that. You have to understand that um, the world is not catered to you. You will face rejection. You will face probably heartache, pain. Everything is not fair. You have to be careful who you roll with, who you get involved with. So much to think about. All those things, though. And one of the things I will say is when you go out there to a distant land, you have to make up in your mind. I'm telling you from an insight, from what I went through, and people I know that went through. You have to be careful, even though it didn't affect me because I understood what I was out there doing. But you have to prevent. You have to tell yourself, if I go out here and play around, I cannot get bitter about the results that I get. What do I mean by that? When you go out here in a distant land, like they said, uh, you want to set off for a distant country. What you got to understand is you think that there are rules, but a lot of people don't play by the same rules as you do. A lot of people don't have the same morals and principles that you have. And even if they do, there are little gaps. There's like these little it gets situational. It go from a game to big plays to situational. And a lot of times when things get situational, some people they I won't say they compromise it, but they'll put a pause on it. So you realize when you get out here, it's hypocritical. Everybody talks this thing, but there are times when the things that they're talking, they're not going to do it because they're trying to either take advantage of the situation or trying to gain leverage to get the odds on their side, stack the odds on their side. It's just how I go. When you when you outside, when you jump off the porch, it's not what you think it is. And if you go into it thinking that people are going to be nice to you all the time, they're going to be sweet to you, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen. And your feelings, a lot of people go through, their feelings get hurt, or they end up exposing themselves to things that mentally they wasn't ready for. And sometimes you can just end up having a bitter stance on life because you made some decisions, things didn't go your way, and it's kind of like the NBA, right? You want to go play in the NBA, there are rules to the game, and then when you're on the court playing, people playing some different things too. You know, you got people that got the antics, you got people that got the theatrics, all these different things you have to take into account when you out here, when you set off to a far country, because you don't know the rules, you don't know the politics, you don't know the lingo. You have to learn these things through trial and error. If you didn't have the parental guidance and conversation, so I had to make sure I get that out. So, second part of the verse, he said, there squandered his wealth in wild living. When you squander something, that means you waste something. You didn't do it wisely. Vanity. I've squandered so much money when I was younger. Um, buying, let's say, car, buying rims, speakers, CD player, in-dash TVs, going to the club, everything you could squander money on, just about, except for drugs. I never really got into drugs. It just wasn't my thing. And things that I saw growing up through family history and stuff like that, and people just living in different areas, you see the effects of drugs on people, and that's why I stayed away from that. I valued being sober because when you get on drugs, that's a path. It's just like how far they go back. It go back even further than that, and some people don't come back from that. And that's something that you have to realize when you get on your own. You become that adult. You're making those decisions without your parents being with you. You have to look at it as, if I do this thing, if I make this choice, will I be able to come back from it? And sometimes you won't even know the answer. You have to think about this. If I do this, I may not come back. Am I going to do this? Am I going to try this? There are a lot of people who did that one choice and they didn't come back. One choice and they lost their life. One choice and their mind will never be the same. Whether it's drugs or getting involved with the wrong person, going to a place that they probably shouldn't have gone. You have to make those kind of decisions and choices. And some people say you overanalyze. It's better to overanalyze and use as much brain resources to not use enough and find yourself in a situation that you didn't want to be in. I remember working at the hospital. This is when I was younger. There would be people that would try, say they tried Sherm or something like that for the first time, and you smoke it, and they're walking down the street. You know what I'm saying? Just butt naked, and they got to go to Living Hope or whatever, because they tried something and they never was the same after that. I mean, it's like it does something up here in your brain, um, in your mind. So one choice, you got to realize that you can make one decision that could cost you so much, physically, mentally, and spiritually. It can cost you so much. So it's not just about money. Sometimes you can squander your health when you get out there in the game. You can squander your health. You can squander your mind because you deal with people that constantly trying to finesse you, take advantage of you. You can deal with the wrong person, it can put you in the wrong situation. And you'll find out that a lot of people will do that. Not all, but there are a lot of people that do that and they won't be apologetic about it. They don't have no remorse about it. It was what it was and it happened and they move on. And some people don't move on. It's hard for them to shake that or move on from that. That's one thing you have to learn how to do as an adult. You have to find a way to forgive and find a way to move on. You don't have to excuse a person's behavior. You don't have to be around them. They interrupt your peace, but you can find a way to forgive and move past um, what had transpired. Forgiveness is your greatest tool um, as an adult. When you become on your own, you have to master forgiveness. Not easy to do. You have to master how to let things go, and you have to be objective and understand that everybody has to make their own choices and decisions at some point. You cannot hold a person's hand all the time. And this happens a lot, you know. My mom didn't raise me to be dependent on her. She raised me to be independent. And there were things that I learned on my own when I was set far off and trial and error. And that's what I'm sharing and giving back. because I can give it to one person or I can put it on video and it can go out to whoever wants to hear it. So when you set afar off to a distant country, whether you're going to college, you're moving out on your own, you're doing all these things, you have to be careful about how you live while living. Then we're gonna move on to the next verse. While living. Depending on who you're talking to, that could be different for everybody. While living. I know while I grew up in the Southwest, Little Rock, McClellan, they ain't even there no more. Now it's Lacey Academy. Shout out to them, but I miss my school. Um, Most of the time kids graduate. If you don't have a strategy, you don't have some kind of direction to go in, yeah, there are a few things that get people that live in the city. Drugs, whether it's using drugs or selling drugs, women, whether it's chasing women or just promiscuous. It could be man, a girl, man or woman, just being promiscuous. Just casual sex. You're not even in a committed relationship. You're just having sex. Like the sex gets a lot of guys having kids. They're young, multiple kids, child support. They get a lot of guys. Um, the streets, doing the street life, whether it's robbing. Um, well, it's all kind of stuff in the streets. I don't even want to get too deep into it, but the streets, girls, drugs, streets get a lot of people. And some people go into it and it's hard for them to come back out of it because they've been in it for so long. Hard for them to go into the streets, the street life, and you've been doing it for 8 to 10 years. That's where your experience is. Now you have to pivot from their wild living and go straight. So it's hard for some people to do that. Women, I struggle with this. You get out there, it's like the NBA. You get out there, you playing, you scoring, you having pretty good. You feel like you're having a pretty good career, but then when you have to pivot, you want to have a family, and you have to pivot. You got to make some changes. It's not easy to do, but it can be done. With God, all things are possible. You got to keep that in mind. However, we put ourselves in situations where the to make it possible, we have to overcome some of the things that we exposed ourselves to. That's what I had to learn. I had to overcome things that I exposed myself to in situations I put myself in. And I had to forgive myself and I had to turn from the wild living in order to go back to a living that made sense, right? Um, Drugs, really tough to come back from drugs. It takes so much from what I saw to come back. It's a mindset, it's a discipline that you have to learn. Sometimes people have to remove themselves from the situation they grew up in because of they end up going right back to it. It's a lot to it, but what I would tell any young person is when it comes to drugs, talked about this like a few minutes ago. One decision, you do it, you may not come back from it. You have to understand what I'm saying. Not be scared of it, but you got to be accountable. If I do this, if I smoke this, if I snort this, if I shoot it up, or if I do any other way you do drugs, I may not come back. I may go down the path of addiction that's all the way back there. Look, all the way back there. And I don't know how far that's going to go. And I may not be able to come back. You have to look at it that way. Maybe you may make a better decision. That's how I looked at some things. Some things I said, I'm not gonna come back from that. I'm probably not gonna do that. And then some things I looked at is I can come back from that. Don't worry, I can hedge that. Don't worry about it. But I'll talk about that here in a second. Matter of fact, I'll write it down. All right, let's do it. Next verse. Verse 14. After he had spent everything There was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. This is why you don't go buck wild out there. You don't squander your money because you never know what's around the corner. You never know. You want to go out there, play around with the little money that you're making. Things happen. Car breakdown. You in famine. You can't fix it because you don't have enough money. Then it started having a domino effect. How do you get to work? How you gonna pay the rent now? You didn't save money. I've done this before myself. I've bought Jordans many a time instead of putting money up for bills. Now I got to do double the work or work overtime to try to make up for that deficit that I did. That's when I was young, in my 20s. Um, Buying stuff I know I didn't need, doing stuff I know I didn't need to do, going out to eat in times I didn't need to go out to eat because it was above the means that I had. I wasn't living within a budget. One thing when you're young, you have to it's a struggle and it's a fight. If you haven't been taught it when you're younger, is to deal with your impulses, those impulse decisions. Somebody said, "Hey Mike, you want to go out to eat?" Yeah, man, let's go. Rolling with the bros. Let's go, man. Let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings. And you spend $25, $30, and then you realize you could that $30 could have went towards gas, it could have went towards something else that was a little bit more important than just going out to eat. Was it fun going out to eat with the bros? Sure it was. But sometimes like I did, in the back of your head, I probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm gonna pay for this later. And this will happen when you spend everything, something come and you begin to be in need. And the reason why I slowed down on this because I don't like borrowing money from people. I've always been independent. I don't like put myself in situations where you can be compromised. So I had to slow down on some of the things I did. I had to be calculated. Like if I do this, how is it going to affect me later? If I do this, am I covered down the line when something come up? Like I say, you never know what's around the corner. Playing around with your health. You start messing with girls. You mess around, start playing around with your health. You mess around being a severe problem. I've seen it. I've seen guys, I'm gonna use my own father, for example, because I don't want to pick on nobody, but father had 9 kids by multiple women. Tough situation to be in because when you have that many kids that young, you really not making enough money to support them realistically, unless you from an affluent family. But he was not from an affluent family. Okay, so you put yourself in these situations, and now you in need. Happens all the time. And when you in need, you have to be careful because some people do extreme things or they do crazy things when they're in need. And that's when I'm telling you earlier, you start making decisions. If you do this, you might not come back. Or it could cause you to go down a path you really didn't want to go down. You thought it was going to be this way, but it ended up turning out that way. Exposing yourself to something that see it all the time, whether it's guy or girl. You do something on Facebook, right? Or Twitter, whatever. See it all the time. Instagram models post themselves half naked. You get 10,000 likes or whatever. Dudes gawking at you. Now you feel like this is the play now because you in need of attention. But what happens is when supply and demand, this is just common sense stuff. Supply and demand. One day you feel like or you think you're hot. One day you post that same thing or that situation and you don't get the same amount of likes. Nobody's looking at it. They done moved on to the next person. Happens all the time. And then what happens is mentally, some people get affected by that because they was used to the high of getting attention. Man or woman. Like men, they go in there and say flagrant stuff. They like the attention. People come in the engagement. They get it, right? But then when the engagement stop, it's like they just keep trying to get that engagement back. So I don't get caught up in it. I just make what I want to make, put it out. Whoever likes it, like it. Whoever don't. I get it. But a person that was out here when I was younger used to say crazy stuff, but this is before social media. So, but um, I don't get caught up in the perception game or trying to be liked and things like that. I learned that way back, back there somewhere. I learned that I don't need everybody to like me. Everybody won't like you. It's impossible. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people just don't know you. You only know them by your circle, and sometimes your circle don't even like everything about you. You know what I'm saying? It's just honest. That's just how it is. You very rarely find a few people that can rock with you. You know what I'm saying? That um, highs and lows in life, they'll still rock with you. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, you have to be careful when you be in need because man or woman, a lot of dudes they get in need, they say, I think I need to rob a bank. And that's not good because now you get caught doing that. Now you're gonna go to jail. You're gonna go to the federal penitentiary. You really gonna be in need. And a lot of women, they do crazy things, for money, you know what I'm saying? Or they don't feel like they're doing nothing crazy, but they take advantage of men in order to have financial gain or stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when you go down that path, you have to understand what comes with it. And it's not gonna always be your way all the time. You're gonna have dudes that's they're gonna try you. They're gonna say, oh well, I know what the other dude doing, but I'm not fit to do that. Or they do what we did when we was out there. They say selling dreams, you know what I'm saying? They sell your dream. Make you think something is, but it's really not. And women do it too. They make you think it's something that it is, but it's really not. And when you out there, when you out in the game, that's what we call it. When you out in the game, it's who has the odds and who has the leverage and who can score first. That's just kind of how it goes. That's I'm giving you an analogy. Who gonna score the touchdown first? Who gonna score first? Do she have a better defense than your offense? Or do you have a better defense than her offense? Can you stop her offense? Or can she stop it? Can the man's defense stop the woman's offense? Or can the woman's defense stop the man's offense? Sometimes it's all about X's and O's. Who can execute better? So next verse. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. So when you don't get your education, you leave, you move out. I went through this. When you don't get your education, I don't want to use myself. I moved, even though my mom moved to Melbourne, I rented a house from her. I just worked. I didn't go to school. I didn't do any of those things up until the point where I got fired from Red Cross. And that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. When you don't go to school, you just working off a high school diploma. You may find a job and you may feel like the money's good until you starting to get older and you realize it's not good. Same way with him. He couldn't find a job. He had to go work in the field with the pigs. When you don't have a diploma, you don't have education, you don't have the skills, and you can't articulate. If you have skills, but you can't articulate them, This is kind of an analogy that you working out in the field with the pigs. You doing the jobs, the temp jobs. You doing the labor finder jobs, stuff like that. Stuff that you don't want to do. And when you deal with people like that, they'll try to get over on you. You gonna say you work 12 hours. They're gonna say you only work 8. They're gonna pay you for 8. Do you want a job or not? You put yourself in those situations when you don't go to school, you don't do an apprenticeship, you don't get some kind of post education. When I got fired from Red Cross, I'm telling you, I was working since I was in high school up until that point. You would think I could have found a job. I had the experience, but I did not. That's what drove me to go back to school. God know how to do it sometimes. But I had to go back to school, had to figure it out. And that's when I started to realize these things as far as dealing with race, dealing with what's unfair and what's not fair, and just dealing with myself. Like peel back the race, peel back all this stuff as an individual. What I had to audit myself, like I talked about earlier today. I had to audit myself. What am I missing? What do I need to get? And how do I maximize what I have? So I don't have to work in the field with the pigs and feed pigs. Because if you don't handle your business, this is the situation that you could be in. The next verse. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. In life, no one will give you anything. A lot of times, stuff come with a cost, expectation. That's why you have to be careful about situations you put yourself in, who you get involved with, and who you roll with. By the grace of God, I had some brothers, man. We were all solid with each other, roommates. Shout out to Fam. Shout out to BJ. Shout out to Leroy, Marcus. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to Jay. Get well soon. Solid brothers, man. Shout out to Gil, Big Cat, Big D. All my brothers, man. Joe. Solid brothers, man. We helped each other out, man. We used to grill, feed each other, man. But not everybody has that. And if you don't handle your business, you're not making money, you'll find yourself in a situation like this. You'll want to fill your stomach with anything you can get your hands on. And no one will give you anything. Everybody is working to take care of their family. Some people don't have money to just give somebody something when you have the ability, especially if you have the ability to work and you don't want to do it or you squandered it on something. And now you're expecting people to help you and they don't really have enough. Most people aren't making enough money to pay their bills, take care of their family, and then support another person. Think about how much money that costs to do that. Well, this is a situation sometimes kids you find yourself in. You go to college, you stop going, playing around with girls, out there with girls, you mess around, have a kid, put you on child support, and you don't have enough money left over, man, to get what you need, and you almost eating pods that pigs are eating. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how it go. You eating bologna and club crackers or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you can get your hands on. But this kind of stuff happens all the time in real life. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death?" Some people come to their senses when they go prodigal. Some people come to their senses. I had to come to my senses. I said, if I don't stop what I'm doing, I'm going to follow the same pattern that my dad did. I'll follow the same pattern. Multiple kids by multiple women, and I'll be on child support, and it will be really hard to overcome. You can, but it's so hard to overcome. I don't want to deal with the bitter or be a baby dad, a baby mom. I actually want a family, husband, wife, and kids. That's what I wanted. But in order for me to do that, I had to come to my senses and I had to make that turn and say, I'm not doing that no more. I had to stop. But guess what? This is what I want to say before I get to this last verse. And I want to say that when you when you're talking about trial and error, when you're going out from your parents and you're making these choices and decisions, a lot of times somebody you're gonna learn at somebody else's expense, and somebody's gonna learn off of your expense. That means that when you deal with people, every woman that a man talks to, she's not gonna be the one. People say that they do, but I'm telling you from experience, that's just not the case. When you don't even know what you like yet, you don't even know what your opposite is, you don't even know what compliments you. You're just trying to figure it out because you didn't have that conversation with your father. I know I didn't about relationships, dealing with women. What kind of women make sense and what don't? What to avoid? What kind of women to avoid and what not to avoid? What's a good prospect? Same thing with women. What kind of men to avoid? What's a good prospect? Before you fall in love, look at what this person's showing you. Same with both men and women. But you have to understand that sometimes before you get to success, you're gonna go through some pains, heartaches, and headaches. That's just how it is, especially when you're playing around out here and you're not under a covering. You don't have that sound advice, sound guidance. Want to go out here and get hooked up with people, and next thing you know, you in love with somebody that's, you know, ain't conducive to your growth. Lord forbid, you have a kid by somebody. It could be man or woman that person is not good for your growth, but you got a kid by them, so you got to deal with them. Happens all the time. Last verse. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. When you come to your senses and you repent to God and you turn it around, you will see the change. And you go back, find you a church home, find good, solid leadership, not the cake mix leadership, but good, solid leadership. You will see the difference. I'm telling you from experience, you will see the difference in your life. I know we're in a generation now, people trying to reject church because they want to do what they want to do. They want to say the things they want to say. But what I'm telling you is any kid that's listening, I'm telling you from my experience, from me and seeing people that I grew up with, when you step off the porch, you leave your parents' covering and you go into the world, so to speak. If you really get out there, you start living wild, and next thing you know, you working in the field with the pigs, and you about to eat the what they call the pods that the pigs eat. You in a tough situation. When you come back, you're not gonna be the same than when you first left. You have to realize that, and you have to not be bitter. You have to just be accountable and learn from it. And then if you have enough, what am I trying to say? You have enough of a tough enough skin to be able to reach and help somebody else so they don't have to go through that. That would be great. But I think the most important thing is to not get bitter about being out in the world, making some bad decisions, tough decisions, and have to turn from that. Because some decisions, there is no 5-minute fix. It's going to take time to work through that and get to back to that place of stability or back to zero sum. And I gotta say this before I get off of this, before I get out of here, is that people like me, I know for me, I was hard headed. Some things I had to find out. I had to mess around and find out to know I don't want to do that no more. But there are some things that, people, you have experiences. That's why you know these things. And then there are some things that you can't hide. Like if, like my father, for example, he messed around and find out. You have multiple kids by multiple women. It's going to be a hard road. It's going to be a hard road to navigate. It just is. Just reality. Single women raising kids by yourself, you're gonna find out it's not as easy as you think it is. Especially with multiple kids. Not as easy as you think it is. Even if you get assistance, you still have to transport, school, appointments, all of those things. You still have to physically do those things. You don't get assistance probably for that kind of stuff. You gotta take them to doctor's appointments, dentist appointments. Lord forbid, I hope if they got any health problems, you got to stay on top of that. All those things. Deal with the wrong man, he won't help you. Happens. You have to have discernment and realize that if I talk to this person, is this person going to be a benefit to me or are they going to be a detriment to me? You have to be able to make those kind of decisions. Sometimes you got to make them fast. Like I said, I'd rather overthink and be wrong. Overthink and find out that I was overthinking and not be in a situation than not think and be in a situation that I wish I wasn't in. But you have to be able to think. That's why we make the podcast a thinking game. Life is a thinking game. You have to think. Life is a series of choices and decisions. And you are where you are, whether you believe it or not, by the choices and decisions that you make. You just have to be self accountable and audit yourself and be honest with where you're at in life and how did you get here. So, with that being said, you ready to get up out this thing? Shout out to everybody who's been watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Relating the Bible to real life. The prodigal son or prodigal daughter. Remember, when you go out into the world, you can't control anything. Only thing you can control is yourself. You won't come back the same. Some results that you can't hide. But understand that you're going to be exposed to things, whether it's incidental or accidental. You have to overcome that. You got to be accountable for what you do. You got to understand individual accountability. Did I put myself in this situation? Or did I put myself in position for something crazy to happen? I've done this so many times, put myself in the wrong position. And you have to fight the accountability piece to not get bitter with life choices and decisions. You got to be able to forgive yourself, repent, turn from it, come back to your senses, and come back to the Lord. And I will pray that everybody comes back to the Lord because that's where your life is, that's where your strength is, and that's where your joy is. This is Mike. I hope I motivated you today, and I'm signing out.